But specifically, we have to address all of the protests that happened over the weekend. I'm going to try to get through this without laughing. The No Kings protest hit so many cities around the country. And thank goodness we do not have a king. Because, of course, everybody knows that the king of any given country is duly elected by the majority of the country. In this case, King Donald Trump won the majority of the popular vote. He won the Electoral College and won the House and the Senate, which, again, kings have always done through the dawn of time. Little known historical fact here, King Henry VIII, when he was looking to behead his fifth wife, actually was stopped by a federal court of appeals, which meant that he couldn't do what he wanted to do. Charlemagne, when he was king, or emperor, but those are basically the same things, had to get all of his spending passed through Congress, because again, that is how kings work. And last but not least, when Caligula in the Roman Empire was appointing his horse to be one of the Roman generals, that of course had to go through the Appropriations Committee, because that's again how kings and emperors work. Of course, this is all sarcastic. We don't have a king. And I would like to welcome all of the libs who were protesting in what I thought was a pride festival, but turns out to be a no kings protest. I'd like to welcome them and say thank you for joining us in our protest for no kings. We've actually all been doing that for the last 249 years since 1776. So thank you guys for finally jumping on board to this idea of no kings. Now, we all are aware that the whole No Kings protest is ridiculous and absurd, and it should be made fun of as such, because that's what we like to do here on this show. But I thought this was really interesting. You may have seen this already, but I do think it's fascinating to reiterate. So many of the X posts on social media, or X specifically, but so many of the libs had, well, just an overexuberance of joy with showing clips from the No Kings protests, well, that maybe weren't exactly what they thought they were. We're going to go through a litany of these X posts. This one is from Democratic Wins Media. Breaking analysis are calling this the biggest protest in American history. It's far bigger than any other rally Donald Trump has ever had. Yeah, because his rallies pack stadiums, and generally they're located in that particular stadium. But we don't need to go into the nuances of that. But notice the picture that they have here of this viral clip that was bouncing all the way around the internet. Somebody else shared that clip, Republicans against Trump, which are, I'm not going to make that joke. That was bad. In other words, libs. Because in no way, shape, or form are you a conservative and go, hey, Donald Trump is not one of us. I'm like, okay, that's it's a little bit of a ridiculous way of thinking. But they also shared the same video, massive crowd at the No Kings rally in Boston. It continues. Some guy named Bryant said, breaking 7 million people took part in the No Kings protests across 2,700 cities today. Yeah, that is a lot of people. 7 million people is no small number. Also, it's about 2% of the population. So, by the way, the massive protests that were the biggest in U.S. history still were very, very small considering the people that voted for President Donald Trump. But shares the same video. And actually, this is the origin of this video. This guy is somewhat respected on the internet by the libs. But again, keep this video in mind. The power of the people. Some anonymous, you're Anonymous Central. This is the biggest single day of protests in U.S. history. Millions upon millions rejected the idea of no kings. Yeah, about 340 million people reject the no kings idea every single day. I've been doing it for the past 250 years. But again, thank you for joining us now. A couple more of these breaking. No kings says nearly 7 million people, yada, 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 shares the same clip. Again, this is the consistent photo here of all of this clip here that we want to get to in just a second. And last but not least, looks like some lib woman, let's effing go, sharing the same video of the No Kings protest in Boston. You know, it does make sense why libs are so adamantly sharing this very powerful video that people have seen all over the internet. At the time of recording this show, it's been a couple days, and that clip that all of those people reshared saying, look at how massive this crowd is, was viewed like 5 million times, which is a lot of times to be viewed. The only problem is Clip was from 2017. This clip that everybody was sharing, you'll see the little chyron there. Let's see, here we go. Power of the people was actually an MSNBC clip that aired 9 years ago during one of the protests against Donald Trump, when the women of the country were wearing their dumb little pink hats and were super excited to take to the streets to fight whatever the king that was duly elected by the American people. All of those people, and this is just a handful of them, shared this video, and this video is not even from this decade. Now, it should be said that there were a lot of people that were protesting in the streets, but also keep in mind, it's about 2% of the population. And if someone were to make the argument that 2% of the people in this country are out of their minds, that seems like a reasonable percentage to go with. So yes, there were 7 million people out in the streets. This video is from 2017, and it will change nothing. Ask me, Wednesday of this week, what they actually accomplished, what policies were put in place, what kings were toppled and overthrown during the No Kings protest, and I guarantee you're not going to actually be able to find an answer. By the way, too, and I know this doesn't need to be said, but kings don't allow protests. That's kind of the whole advantage of being a king. You wouldn't allow people to gather like this without arresting them en masse. And thankfully, it did stay peaceful. I was, for the most part, I know there were some small incidents in some places, but overall, keep in mind, that kings or dictators, like the libs claim that Trump is, wouldn't allow this sort of thing. So the whole thing is kind of an oxymoron, to say the least. We've got a fantastic insider knowledge here on the No Kings protest. Joining us now is Turning Point contributor and Frontlines reporter and attendee of the No Kings protest. Sav, I think because you were there, it worked. We don't have a king in this country. Congratulations on your achievement. And I hope that you're safe from those overweight boomer libs who also probably drive Subarus, if you know what that means. First of all, your initial thoughts. We have video from your time, again, making sure we have no kings, but what were your initial thoughts there at the protest this weekend?
Look, initial thoughts, I have to be really honest. There was quite a large crowd there in New York City, one of the biggest that I've ever seen. What was interesting, though, is that it dissipated pretty quickly. It was kind of like, well, we're done with our job. Time to clock out and go home. That was kind of the vibe there. So, yes, a lot of overweight boomers. Sorry to the boomer class. I know they get very, very angry when you call out their age. But look, it was a lot of old people that were there, really angry about the fact that we don't have a king, that we do have a king. I mean, we don't have a king. So I guess mission accomplished. I don't know. Nobody knows why they were protesting. Neither do they. But that's what we saw on the ground in New York, was a bunch of either, people who have no idea what they were doing, and they were kind of just there for fun because it's Saturday and, fight the man, fight the power. Or they were really radical leftists who were like, yeah, we should probably cut the heads off of our political opposition and actually draw colorful signs and, openly protest in favor of that on the streets of the United States.
Now, we do have some clips of that, but before that, just so I know our audience is aware of this, we're not talking about you folks. We're talking about the woke libs who are in the boomer generation, who are out there protesting on behalf of people like me and you, apparently, or at least so they say, which we'll get to a clip after that. But I think I want to play this one clip that you had regarding the Antifa name and showing this. I don't know if there's a ton of audio on here, so you feel free to explain what's going on or wait till it's over. But this is some video clips of supposed Antifa, quote unquote, domestic terrorists, according to the administration. There's Gavin, Governor Newsom.
Zoran Montani, Bernie, and good old Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah. So basically, Jobob, what we are seeing here and why this clip is significant is because, one, Donald Trump just declared Antifa a domestic terrorist organization because they have been attacking law-abiding citizens and journalists like myself for years at this point, for over a decade, right? So this has really been an issue, and they are a legitimate threat. I would venture to be like, okay, Antifa equivalent to ISIS, right? So that's like the mindset that anybody who understands what Antifa is has. And the left wing is now trying to water down what this terrorist group is by making signs just like this one, or maybe they're just being brutally honest when they put Zohran Mamdani's face on a sign of Antifa and what his true motives are. Maybe, death to the United States of America. I don't know. His policies are certainly, going to push us in that way. But they're basically trying to water down what this group is. We also had Antifa members that were marching in the No Kings protest. There was actually a call out of Portland, which was a war zone, for Antifa to essentially go to these No Kings protests and embed, so that way they could further mainstream their message and find the most radical amongst those other protesters so that they could go ahead and recruit them to Antifa. So a lot of moving angles with this portion of the protest. But like I said, I think we keep our eye on the fact that they're really trying to water down what this is, and they're trying to make Antifa seem like this family friendly, super fun, we just get together and we fight fascism, when in reality it's like, oh, you're a 120-pound journalist who likes free speech. We're gonna try to kill you. Okay.
Oh, yeah, great. I love that attitude from the tolerant and peaceful, loving crowd
Always,
there.
always.
There's so much peace, so much love, so much tolerance. Unless you don't agree with them 100% of the time. I do like what you said there. Are they trying to water it down, or are they telling the truth, which is actually worse? Actually, both of them are bad. I'm not sure which one is exactly worse. But speaking of you being out on the streets, I love your like little selfie videos where you're like, hey, here's me doing things. And then the libs, who, by the way, don't need to stand there. It is a free country. They can
literally walk away. I know.
And
Jobob, can I preface this clip too? Because
okay.
You know what? After everything that happened with Charlie, I have been nervous to go out and conduct interviews. And so I've been doing a lot of B-roll shots, right? To where I'm just kind of at an event and I'm just there taking footage, and that's the journalism and the extent that I'm trying to take it to. What's been going on, though, is the left wing will see my press badge. They will see that it says Turning Point USA and make a point to come up to me to send a message. So I just want to preface this with the fact that I wasn't even conducting interviews. I was standing there minding my own business, and these men came up to me. So just want to preface that.
Okay, well, let's play that clip right now. This is among my favorite things that you do, and I really hope you stay safe out there. Watch this.
So this guy is so hateful and angry, he can't even tell me any of the racist things that Charlie is saying. So
I've already told you.
Okay, well then walk away.
That's a police officer, by the way.
All you have to do is walk away. So this gentleman found out that I worked at Turning Point USA and decided to come up to me and say that Charlie was a racist and a fascist. I was having a conversation. So you found out that I work for Turning Point, and you said you can't stand here and talk with me because why?
Because Charlie Kirk was a racist, bigot, scum.
Oh, cool. Well, that's it's definitely helping the rhetoric there. And again, it's hard for me to like toe the line between being super, super upset about this, but also just making fun of them, because when you make fun of them, it makes them really, really angry and upset, which, is I think a good way to push the ideas of reality upon them. But so that guy, that's a small clip. It's a big, longer clip. Go to Sav Says on the X account and find the full thing, because it's actually really interesting. Why don't these people just walk away?
Jobob, in this instance, he actually did. And it's funny because at the end of this clip, he does walk away, but then he makes it a point to stay in the back of the clip to flip me off. So I'm like using him as B-roll at that point. I'm like pointing to him. I'm like, this guy right here who's flipping me off and being extremely aggressive. Yeah, this guy. And it's just hilarious too, because the left wing loves to lie. I mean, and you see it in this clip where he's like, I didn't say any of that. And then, I go right to the clip of him saying the exact thing that he said he wasn't saying. And it's this gaslighting from the left wing. And it's also, again, the dehumanization of the political party that they disagree with that has led us to this point as a country. And of course, we had got into what happened to Charlie because basically everybody at the No Kings protest was like, we are going to label you something and then hope that whatever we label you, in this case, a Nazi, a fascist, the KKK, take your pick, they're then going to promote that those people should die. So we're in a very volatile situation in the United States of America. And, similar to you, Jobob, right? I always try to bring a little bit of humor into what I'm doing, because when people are hurling insults at you, because this guy called me a token for Turning Point USA, because I was like, look, if Charlie's such a racist. Sorry, go ahead.
We have that clip. Can we play it for you? And then you can continue
clip.
on with your rant.
Roll the clip.
Here's the token clip. Savanah and I, both tokens, which is absurdly racist. Watch this.
So regarding the racism, I myself am a Hispanic Asian woman.
Okay.
He hired me on to, represent his organization.
God bless. Everybody needs a token.
Okay, so I'm a token.
Jobob, this is like the third or fourth old white boomer this year who I have gotten on camera being like, you're going to get deported because you're brown. You're a token. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, am I living in crazy land? Because you guys are supposed to be the party that gets angry and fights against racism and gets angry at every little thing and cancels people over every little thing. And you are the same people that are sitting here telling me that because I think differently from you, that I'm a token and I'm too dumb to have my own thought process or my own individual thought. And I'm just being used by the right wing. It's insane. Like, what is going on, Jobob? I don't know.
Well, I think it's super interesting too, because my complaint about the idea of identity hiring has been like, if you're going to promote people or hire people based specifically on their race and no other factors, you diminish the qualifications of the people that actually get the jobs, which is like like right there is exactly what all of us are concerned about. Like, hey, if you just hire a Hispanic Asian woman because she is Hispanic and Asian, well, then people aren't going to think she's qualified for the job, and therefore it diminishes your great work that you do, which is the entire problem. And that's what Charlie had been pushing so long and so hard. The idea that they're effectively doing the meme, like we're making fun of them for this, and then they lean into it, and it always continues to baffle me. Sat, any last thoughts here on, first of all, again, like I said, congratulations. You showed up to the No Kings protest. We don't have a king. America is kingless again. I mean, continually for the last 250 years, but any last thoughts before we let you go?
To the liberal boomers, not the conservative ones, we love you guys, but to the liberal boomers, relax, maybe go try and read it. Like, turn off CNN, please God, because you guys are out of control in these streets. Good Lord. If reading the word Turning Point USA evokes this type of reaction in you, like, go spend time with your grandchildren. And if you don't have grandchildren, let that be a lesson. If you decide not to have a family, that's what you turn into, a grumpy old curmudgeon who yells at the youth on the streets.
I was going to say, the likelihood of these folks having families that they are close with and like to spend time with would lead me to believe that they're not going to go waste a Saturday marching against a thing that doesn't exist. So, yeah, there we go. Savanah Hernandez, thanks so much for joining us. Stay safe out there, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Jobob.
Thank you.